Hey everybody, on today's live stream, I am making my family favorite chicken noodle soup. Actually, I'm going to probably make the biggest pot of chicken noodle soup that I've ever made, but the weather's getting a little bit cooler. It's time for people to cozy up, and one of the things that just really helps us to feel comfortable and cozy is chicken noodle soup. I'm going to be starting with a rotisserie chicken, so I've got this out. I've also already cut my carrots and my other veggies that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to move on over here to the sink, or rather move on over here to the stove and get that started. Now here's the thing. I'm trying the live stream with the new vertical format, which is not my usual forte. So we'll see how things work out. If we like it, then we'll know whether we should try it again. So I'm going to come over here to my stove, and I've got out one of my big pots, and I'm going to get that turned on. And I'm going to put some butter in the bottom of the pot so that it can start to melt. And then I'm going to saute my onions, my celery, and my carrots. So as I said, I'm making a huge pot because we have a family that is in crisis. So one of the things that always makes me feel more comfortable is chicken noodle soup. So I am making that to take to them. And there may be some other family members there. So that's why I'm using such a large pot. So I'm going to start out by putting some butter in this pot. And I'll let it melt, and then I'll add my vegetables. And like I said, since I am using this vertical format, I don't think I can bring you over here, or I'm afraid if I tried to bring you over here, I might drop the camera. So we'll see how things go. But yeah, so I've got the butter is starting to melt, and the pot is heating up. So let me just ask you guys, while you're out there and we're waiting on that butter to heat up, what do you like when you want to be warmed up, cozied up? What's your go-to soup for fall? Mine is, first off, it's going to be chicken noodle soup, maybe a little chicken stew next, and then I also like a good old-fashioned chili with cheese on top. So what's your go-to? My first go-to is going to be chicken noodle soup. So what's yours? Okay, so now this is looking pretty good. And I'm going to put the onions in first so that the onions become a little bit translucent. Once they become translucent, then I'll throw in the carrots and the celery. So let's get these onions in first. So you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and drop those in. And I put the onions in first so that they don't get just kind of too soft before they have the chance to just kind of get translucent. So I'm going to get these onions in first. And what the heck, I'm making soup. It probably really doesn't matter. So I think I'll just go ahead and put all the veggies in and just let them saute. Because yeah, it really probably doesn't matter. That way I could get my spices in and get a bloom on them. So right now I've got the onions and the celery in. And I used one whole large onion. I used about 5 stalks of celery. I do like celery in soup. And then I've probably got about 6 carrots here, and these carrots are going to go in, and I love carrots in soup. It gives soup such a natural sweetness. So I'll bring these on over here so they're ready when I'm ready. And then I made my own chicken broth last night since I knew I was going to be making soup today. So I went ahead and made the chicken broth so that I would have it ready to go. And then as far as spices, I've got a little bit of Miss Leona's. I've used my measuring spoons earlier and dropped them in the sink. Of course, I didn't use all the spoons. I only used a couple of them, but now that I need them for this, so I thought, let me just give them a good rinse and then bring them on over here. But I like this set of measuring spoons just because there's like from 1/8 teaspoon all the way up to a tablespoon. And if you look at them, you can see that they are slim enough that they go inside most bottles or most spice jars. So certainly these smaller ones go inside all spice jars, and then this tablespoon goes inside most spice jars. So I've got some of Miss Leona's homemade seasoning mix, and I'll link that in the description box below. But now let me just give you a word of caution. Whereas Miss Leona will use maybe a teaspoon or even a couple teaspoons of her homemade house seasoning, I just use a half teaspoon. And then if I need to add more, I'll do that, because her and the big guy like it hot and spicy. I don't like the heat quite so much. I'm more into flavor than the heat. So there's a half a teaspoon of Miss Leona's house seasoning. And then I've got some poultry seasoning that I put together, and I'm going to put in a half a teaspoon of that poultry seasoning. And where did I put the salt? I guess I put the salt away. Let me grab it real quick. I was trying to have everything out, and I guess I don't need the salt in there just yet, but so you can hear this is heating up, so I'm giving it a good stir. So while I'm doing this, you guys let me know how you like the new vertical format that I'm trying. It puts you at a little bit different angle, and it doesn't allow me to move the camera around a lot. So tell me what you think about that. How do you like the angle that I've got? Inquiring minds would like to know. So I'm taking this chicken noodle soup over to one of our family members, and I'm also going to make some cornbread muffins to take with the soup as well. So once I get the soup on, I'll go ahead and get the muffins put together. I've got all the ingredients out here on the counter for that, and I've already preheated my oven. So I was trying to get as much done as I could. So let me just tell you, one of the things though that I've been working on lately is my $30 Ultimate Challenge grocery hauls. Or rather, $30 grocery haul challenges. And it's really been quite interesting. Going to put my carrots in now. It's really been quite interesting to do this $30 grocery haul, because what it's forced me to do is be economical, to really think about what I'm spending. And it's really been quite interesting, because what I have found is that you can eat well on a budget. You just have to plan better. So when I did my Aldi grocery haul, I picked up a few things with that. And one of the things that I said I was going to make was some chicken noodle soup. So that's what I'm doing today, is making some chicken noodle soup. And once I get the veggies sauteed pretty good, and then I get the broth in, I'll get this chicken shredded up. And I don't normally use a whole chicken. Most of the time when I'm making chicken noodle soup, I'll just use half the chicken. But since I really want to make a huge pot today to take to our family members, I'm going to shred up the whole chicken. So that's the plan. I feel like I'm making soup for like a relief effort. You know, you watch when they're at the Red Cross or the Salvation Army and they're making those huge vats of soup. That's what I feel like today. Usually when I got a pot this big with something in it, it's usually jam or jelly or broth, something like that. So I like to get my veggies sauteed and begin to soften just a bit before I add in the broth and the noodles. Then that way I don't overcook the noodles by trying to get by cooking it longer to get the broth sauteed, or rather to get the veggies soft. So while that's sauteing, I can go ahead and get started on this chicken. So I got my cutting board out. Now there's a little bit of juice in this bag. I'm going to pour this into my pot. So I'll just drop that in there for now. But that juice will be good broth to use. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this chicken cut up. And one of the things that I will do is save the bones so that I can make more broth later. I'm not going to save the skin. I know some people like to save the skin, but what I find is that if I put the skin in with my broth, then sometimes it comes out a little cloudy. And I like for the broth to be as clear as possible. Now, when I'm making broth that's going to go into chicken soup, and I'm using the broth, you know, for the soup, then it's not quite so important. But you know, I've got a little container down there that I'm throwing this in. But yeah, I like to keep the bones as fat-free and as I can. So I'll be putting these bones aside in the bag that they came in, and then I can use those to actually make more broth later. Some of the best parts of the chicken for broth include the thighs and the leg, because they're the most flavorful. They're the dark meat. A lot of people like to use the white meat, like the breast, that kind of thing, for a lot of recipes, which is fine. But when you want flavor, you want to go with the dark meat, like the thigh and the leg. So that'll be great in the soup as well, since I'm using all parts of the chicken in the soup. So getting this all shredded up, or pulled apart I should say, and getting the bones in the bag and the gristle, that kind of thing. Because I will use the gristle in there, but I try to get rid of most of the skin. And I know there's fat in the skin that's probably healthy. But since both my husband and myself and so many people have cholesterol issues, I try to eliminate as much fat as possible. Except, of course, when it comes to desserts. So getting this all pulled apart. And then what are you doing to get your home ready for fall? I've already started thinking about the holiday season. Like, for example, one of the videos that I'm going to do, now look at this, it's still a little bit red in the middle there. And this was a rotisserie chicken, so it's good that I'm going to be cooking it more in the soup. But I've already started thinking about the holiday that's coming up, Thanksgiving first, and then Christmas, and what I want to cook. So one of the things I plan to do, as one of my viewers asked if I could do, is try to figure out how to do a Thanksgiving dinner on a $30 budget, which I think is doable depending upon how many people you're having and what it is you plan to serve. Now, if you plan to serve turkey and you get a turkey for $15, that's half your budget. And to get one for $15, you're probably going to have to wait until late, like when the stores put those turkeys on sale for like 99 cents a pound or less. But that's going to be half your budget right there. So keep in mind that it doesn't have to be turkey, but if your family feels like it does, well, then you're going to have to make some adjustments with some other things. I feel like I need to give those veggies a stir. So, yep, I did. I can hear them. It's like after you've cooked long enough, when you hear a certain sound, you know, like it's okay, it's time to take a look at those. So the carrots and the onions are becoming softer. They're not where I want them to be, but they're getting there. I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit, like this halfway, and let them continue to saute. Okay. And now I'll finish up. Now, I like to put the chicken wing in there for some reason, so I'm going to have this chicken wing in there. And then these little pieces like that I like to put in, because they do add some flavor. This can go in the soup that way. That'll be good. Sometimes I'll let little pieces on the bone in there, like maybe this one. And then that meat will just kind of fall off the bone. But I try not to leave any bones in there for the most part. Bones that aren't quickly and easily recognizable. Because if you have children that's eating the soup, you don't want to inadvertently have left the bone in there and then they end up getting that and just giving it a good swallow and it getting stuck in their throat. So I'm very careful about that. So I'm going to get this off to the side just a little bit. Let's see, what are they saying? So welcome to the live chat. I appreciate you guys joining me. Definitely appreciate that. And let me know, again, what is your favorite go-to soup for your cozy up days? Or if you're sick, when you were a kid and you were sick, what did your mom or your dad or your grandma make for you? Tell me what they made for you. I'll be interested to know. One of the things that my mom would make for us when we were sick was cream of wheat. Now that's the ultimate cozy up food. She would make us cream of wheat and toast. So what did your family have as their go-to when somebody was sick? I'd really like to know. And I want to know how you're liking this cook with me, especially in this vertical format. Because I do find it just a little bit interesting. going to be a lot of family members when I take this over there. So that's why I wanted to make the pot big enough. And then the chicken pieces are just going to be bite-sized, just bite-sized pieces. And I like using a rotisserie chicken for this purpose. Now, you can use a raw chicken if you prefer. You just have to cook the chicken first, get the broth off of it, and then go from there. But I like using the rotisserie chicken because that part of the process is already done for me. So next I'm going to add the broth and then add in the noodles. I'll put the chicken in somewhat toward the latter part of the cooking process just because I don't want to have it in there too long and then leach all of the nutrients and the taste out of it. But it sounds like it's time for me to add the broth now to those vegetables. And then I can also add the noodles. So let me do that. And I've got the Mrs. Miller's old-fashioned medium noodles. I like that particular brand. And I like the Essenhouse brand of noodles. Okay. I'll bring a spoon of the veggies over so you can see them. So you can see here, this is the onions, carrots, and celery, and it's looking pretty good. They're nice and tender. I'm thinking they could use a little salt. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to start with about a teaspoon of salt. And I'm starting with a teaspoon, and then I'm going to add my broth. Now, here's the thing about adding salt. You can always add some later, but once you put it in, you can't take it out. So what you don't want to have happen is for it to be too salty. So I wasn't sure about the size of this pot, but there's 2 quarts of chicken broth. There's another quart. And I think I'm going to need another quart. So I've got in yeah, this is 2 quarts. So I put in 4 quarts of chicken broth, homemade chicken broth. Let's see if I can bring the pot over. This is what it's looking like right now. So it's got those 4 quarts of broth in it. Now I'm going to get a spoon and give it a little taste. Just to see what the broth is tasting like. Because if the broth is good, the soup's going to be good. It's okay right now. Broth is still a little cool, so I couldn't really get a good flavor taste. But I think I'm going to need to be adding some more seasoning to that because, like I said, there is quite a bit of broth in here. So now I can try another ½ teaspoon of Miss Leona's house seasoning. apply another half teaspoon of my poultry seasoning. And then I'm going to bring this to a boil. And when it comes to a boil, I'll drop in the noodles. In the meantime, I'll keep cutting up this chicken. Now I want to bring that to a boil so that when I put the noodles in, it shouldn't take more than 8 to 10 minutes for those noodles to get cooked. And then when I've got all the pieces in there, I'll go ahead and get those muffins started. And I got everything for the muffins right here. And I'm going to use my mini muffin pan just because, you know, since I'm not sure how many people are going to be there, and sometimes you make a regular sized muffin and it goes to waste. People just want a little bit. So if I make those mini muffins, then people can take one, and those mini muffins, you only get like maybe 2, maybe 3 bites, depending upon, you know, how big your mouth is. So for a kid, one little mini muffin would be fine. For an adult, they might want 2, maybe 3 of those. But it certainly would be enough to share. So that's why I'm going to use that particular pan to, you know, make those mini muffins. So, I almost have this chicken cut up. So I think I was telling you earlier about my $30 grocery haul. So I did the ultimate challenge, a $30 grocery haul, surviving on SNAP benefits, which SNAP benefits is the current term for food stamps. Because I had been talking with a friend who had said that her SNAP benefits were cut. She couldn't figure out why, and she was saying how difficult it was going to be for her to be able to make her grocery bill, you know, make ends meet with that. And I was like, oh, we'll just do this. Oh, just do that. I was really quite slug, thinking it'd be easy. And she said it's not as easy as you think. And so I said to myself, I'm just going to give it a try. We'll just see. And I gave it a try, and I saw it was not as easy as I thought. Now, one of the things that I did learn as a result of that whole challenge was that SNAP benefits are meant to supplement your food budget, not replace it, but to supplement it. And so I learned that. And I had a lot of people to jump in and respond about, you know, they were actually living on SNAP benefits, and how many of them said they had more month left over, or rather more month left over at the end of their money, and they were making choices between buying medicine, buying food, buying gas, paying their rent, and things like that. So their SNAP benefits were very important. It was a very important part of their food budget. And it got me to investigating what other resources are out there for people. And one of the resources that I learned is out there, number one, could be your local food pantry or food bank. In our community, we've got what's known as the Community Harvest Food Bank, which really helps feed America. Even though it's a local agency, when there's disasters like the one we have right now with the hurricane, they send food across the country, water, that kind of thing across the country to other locales. But most of you will have some kind of a food bank or food pantry in your community. And so I've learned that that is one of the resources that people should consider, is taking advantage of their local community harvest food bank, number one. Also, many churches will have food pantries or food banks, and that they offer resources as well. And I do know that Salvation Army will often have a food pantry that's available. So there are those. So they can supplement their grocery budget with that. The other thing they can consider doing is, I heard that some of the farmers markets will have some like seconds or like things that are like less than stellar that they will sell at reduced prices. So that is certainly an option. And then of course, making a meal plan and then shopping your shelves for whatever you have and then going from there. Other resources could be family and friends, meaning that when it's gift giving time, like birthdays and different things like that, what one can do is maybe give them a food card, like for Kroger or something like that. That's certainly an option that one can consider. So, and yes, I'm washing my hands a lot, but first of all, when you're cooking, you do wash your hands a lot because you do want to be clean. So there's that, number one. And I'm going to just stick this down in here for now. And I'll put this out of the way over there and clean up my counter just a little bit. This is not Rachel Ray's kitchen, so I don't have a sous chef, a cleanup crew, or anybody like that that's going to come in and clean up after me. So I don't have that. So I like to try to keep things as neat as possible when I'm cooking, particularly if I'm cooking on camera. So there's that. I'm going to turn that back up now to try to bring it to a boil. I'm liking the way it's looking though. Okay, so while that's coming to a boil, I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and get those muffins ready. What am I looking at? Oh, dishcloth. I was like, what is that on camera? So I pretty much tried to get everything together that I would need for the muffins. And one of the problems that I see with this vertical format right away is that if I move even just a little bit, I'm off camera. And I try not to do that, so I'll have to figure out how to set that up better the next time. I tried to put it where you could see the stove pretty good. So okay, so I've got some flour here, and it's just all-purpose flour. And I'm going to give that just a little bit of a whisk because, you know, it's been in a mason jar in my pantry for a while. So it's gotten a little lumpy. So I'll give that a little whisk. I'll also add about a half a cup, 3/4 cup of cornmeal. This particular recipe is kind of like similar to one of those famous brands that we make comes in a box that everybody loves, and my family loves it as well. Now I'm telling you, today, if I would have had one of those little boxes or two of those little boxes, that's what I would have made, just because it would have been easier. But didn't have that. Here's some sugar, a little bit of baking powder, and salt. So now I'll whisk all of this together. And I want to keep an eye on my soup. I tell you what, I have been known to burn things up. Now with soup, that shouldn't be a problem. But I wanted us to be able to have the corn muffins with the soup. And I know a lot of people would just like do soup and crackers or something like that. But I like the addition of the little corn muffins when I am having soup. It just makes it that much heartier. So I'm giving this a good stir, and then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And that's what gives it that kind of flavor that you get with the little box mix. I don't want to get myself in trouble, so that's why I'm not saying the name, but you guys know what I mean. Okay, this looks pretty smooth. So now I'm going to add in the 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Excuse me, getting a frog in my throat. And I like using these little glass bowls when I'm making things on camera because I can just put all the ingredients in it and you can see what it is that I'm doing. So yeah. And then I want to whisk this until like it's almost just smooth, you know, so all the little lumps and all that is kind of out of it. And then I'll add an egg and some milk. And I've got my little muffin tins and I've got my shortening over here so that I can grease my muffin tins. And I'll grease the muffin tins after the batter is done. That way the corn muffin batter can be sitting and just kind of rising. You don't want to pour the batter in the tins as soon as you're done. You want to kind of let it sit for about a minute so that it can rise. And then you add your batter to your muffin tins about a half to 3/4 full. And since these are going to be small muffins, you know, those little mini ones, I'll probably just do them half full because I don't want it to spill over. And if I have to get another muffin pan, I can. I don't think my other mini pans are in the house though. So I think my other ones are just like regular size muffin pans. Okay. That. Little chicken bones, get them out of the way. Okay, so now I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to make like a little well in the center. Going to add my milk. And then I'm also going to add my egg. And then I'll give that a good stir. And if I need to add more milk, I can. And I usually do. Now the thing about cornmeal, or not cornmeal, corn muffin, cornbread batter, is you don't want to over mix it. And I probably do much of the time. I just want it to be kind of just moistened. But I like mine to pour. So there, that's mixing pretty good. Scrape the bowl and okay, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to sit this there for a second and take a look at this. Starting to come to a boil. So I'm going to go ahead and put my noodles in. And this bag is supposed to serve 8. If you're like having regular noodles and it says serves 8. Servings. So we'll see. I'm going to pour in half the bag first, and I'll see what I think about that. And then I'll pour in a little bit more. So I think you can see from there. So the broth is boiling. So I'm going to pour in half the bag at first. Give that a little stir. now I'm going to pour in the rest. I think I'm going to go ahead and use them all. Because I want this soup to be nice and hearty. And if I decide that I put in too many noodles and I need more broth, I can always add more broth. I know something I forgot to put in here was thyme. It just dawned on me that I didn't do that. So let me get that. Oh. So I got that thyme out. I love thyme in soup. So I put in about a capful of thyme, and let's also add some parsley to that. I've got some parsley. I'm getting my parsley out. You know, you think you have everything ready, and then you find that you overlooked a couple things. So this is parsley that I dried myself. There. And I'm thinking I'm probably going to need more salt since I've added all those noodles. But we're going to wait. Because like I said, we can always add more. But if we get too much in there, we can't take it out. So now, this corn muffin mix has been sitting here for a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and get my muffin tins. See, I got these little mini muffin tins. I'm going to go ahead and get them ready. Before I start working with them. So, I like to cover my hand with wax paper like this. Kind of makes like a little glove. And then I'll put that inside and then just really grease the muffin tins. Dear, upstairs. My husband's home, and he tells him, it's like, okay, I can't breathe, I can't make a sound. You ought to hear him talk to my son or his brothers about what a tyrant I am when I'm filming. He's like, I can't even breathe. Well, sometimes he can be a little noisy. I try to be conscientious about inconveniencing him too much. So I try not to put him on mute too much. So I try to get everything ready for this before I asked him to put on his earbuds or anything like that. And a lot of times he'll go out in the garage and work, or he'll go upstairs to his studio and do some work up there. But today he's in the family room watching TV and he's got his earbuds in. And sometimes he forgets what I'm doing, so. Okay, so these are just about all greased pretty good. And you grease them pretty good so that they slip out pretty easily. You want them to be able to come out without having too much problem. So I make sure I get them good and greased. At least I try to. Okay, put that aside. And then I'll get a teaspoon. I think I'll get a small one. Yeah. Then I'll get a teaspoon. And put these in. And what I want you to see is, you see that batter? You see how you see those little holes there? That's how you can tell that the batter has started to rise. And that's what I wanted to do. Just a little less than a teaspoonful worth. Then, if I still have some, then I'll get another tin or some other kind of baking thing. So, get that one set aside, bring this one over. It should make 12 regular sized muffins, which means it should make about 24 of these mini muffins. I may need another pan, we'll see. I can hear the soup back there boiling. So once I get these in the oven, I'll take a peek at it and see if I'm going to need to add more broth. I do have more broth in the freezer. I don't think I have any more in the fridge. Maybe a couple cups. Let's see. Okay. Looks like there's just enough left for a very small dish. So let me just find a little small ramekin or something, because I don't want to overfill those. And I have one. Yeah. I'll use this. So I'll just give that a good grease. And then I can put this in there. And I'll leave this one at home for my husband. He likes corn muffins. So you can have that. There. And I'll put a little water on that, just so it's not real dry when I get ready to wash it. Yep, this is bubbling pretty good. Looks like I've got just enough noodles. I might add a little bit more broth. Let me just see if I got some in the fridge. Hang on. I got this one little carton here. I want to strain it one more time because I've got fat on the top. So I'm going to strain this fat off the top. So now I've got another 2 cups here, so I'll add that in. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Let me see how the noodles are doing. The noodles are still pretty chewy. I'm going to go ahead and get these muffins in the oven. So now they're in the oven. I think I'm going to try to turn this a little more there. Because I think I've been getting off camera. So I think, yeah, this is better. Yeah, this is better. Yeah, this is better. Okay. So giving this a stir. I'll bring this over and let you see it. That's what it's looking like now. I wish there was a way that I could like be able to point the camera down so you can see inside, but I can do all that when I'm doing a video and I'm able to do editing and I can edit out when I drag things around, but I can't do that on live stream. So let me know how you like this live stream cook with me. Since the noodles are starting to get just a little tender, they're not as hard as they were, I'm going to go ahead and add the chicken now because I think this will be a good time for the chicken to get infused with the broth and also for some of the chicken flavor to ooze into the soup. So let's go ahead now and add the chicken. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. This is looking pretty darn good. My hands are still feeling just a little sticky. Now I do enjoy using these spurtles. I learned about these spurtles from my friend Leona at Ebony, Ivy, and Time in the Kitchen with Leona Dooley. And I'm like, where have they been all my life? They are just so nice. Nice little wooden utensils. Now after this simmers for a little bit, then I can decide whether or not I need to add any more salt or other seasonings to it. Because the noodles have started to plump up and absorb some of the liquid. So if I need to add any more broth, I'm going to have to get some out of the freezer. Because I like for now my sister, when she makes her chicken noodle soup, she likes to have a lot of noodles. She likes more noodles than just a little broth. Me, I like noodles, but I like a lot of broth. I mean, after all, it is soup. So I like to have a lot of broth in there so that once you eat the noodles, you can just kind of sip on the soup, maybe even pour the soup in a cup or just kind of or maybe even just kind of sip it with your spoon. But yeah, so I like that. Let me put this milk in the fridge. I forgot about that. It's still sitting here. So it looks like they're doing okay down there. I don't know if you can see them. I might have overfilled some of them just a little bit because I can see a couple of them looks like they're spilling over the edge, but then again, they may go straight up. We'll see. Oh, I better set the timer. I like to set my microwave timer so that I know when to get them out. So, okay, so the soup's on. Hey, that's funny, the soup's on. The soup's on. The muffins are in the oven. Wait a minute, now I turned that over. Here, let me turn this a little bit. The soup's on and the muffins are in the oven. So all I need to do now is clean up all this mess that I've got here. And that shouldn't take very long. So let me do that. Let's see how I can do that without having to move too far out of camera range. So I guess one of my questions as I began to consider the new format of the vertical live stream is whether or not it's going to work for me in my cooking. That's something for me to think about, to try to figure out. Is it going to work for me if I'm cooking? Because the space I've got to work with is so limited. So that I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. So I'm getting all my dirty dishes over here. Spices and everything is over there. And you can see me here at the sink. So, and I do like to clean as I go. It's one of those things that I just learned early on. After 50 years of homemaking, one of the secrets that I've learned is to clean as you go. It just kind of helps you so that the cleanup isn't so overwhelming, to just clean as you go. Now, my husband says that I can wreck a kitchen. He says I get out every dish, every pot, every piece of cutlery in the kitchen when I'm cooking something. And I always say, I don't quite do that. I kind of disagree with that thought. But I don't know, he may have a point. Because I got quite a bit out right now. And our chicken noodle soup is mostly a one-pot meal. So yeah, there's quite a bit that's out for what's basically a one-pot meal. I kind of see why Rachel Ray has that garbage bowl that she uses on her show, because she can put all the things in a bowl and not have to worry about moving around too much. So if I decide that I want to do this more often, I will have to come up with some little tips or tricks to help me sort that out. Because there is certainly probably an art to cooking on camera. So I'm going to turn you just a little bit because you can see back there, there's some steam rolling off of here. I'm going to turn this down. I'm going to turn it down. It's smelling pretty darn good. It's looking pretty good too. Let me grab a spoon and give it a taste now. Again, I'm just tasting the broth. I think the broth's pretty good. Yeah, I think the broth's pretty good. I'm not going to add any more salt. I'm going to let people do that themselves at the table. Let's see if these noodles are done. Just about. And they're absorbing the flavor of the broth. So I'm thinking by the time the muffins are done, the noodles ought to be done. probably use a little bit more broth though. Honey, could you bring me a carton of chicken broth out of the freezer? He's probably thinking like, now you want me to do something. They're, yeah, those little plastic jars on the freezer door. Yeah, because I'm thinking these noodles, as they swell, they're taking up a lot more. Oh, I wanted two. I'll put them in the microwave and let them. I had a feeling with all those noodles that I put in there that I'd probably need more broth, but we'll see. Thank you, dear. I appreciate it. So I'm going to put these in the microwave. Oh, 3:30. So I had 3 minutes and 30 seconds left on those muffins. And I put those, that chicken broth on 3 minutes so that I'll know when I get those out, I've got about 30 seconds left on the muffins, and we'll see how that goes there. Yeah. So while that's doing that, I'll run some soapy water. And I'll start getting some of these things washed up. And I'm going to turn you just a little bit, I think. Yeah, I think you can see it's over here. Some of this stuff I'm going to just put in the dishwasher, but some things I don't always put in the dishwasher. So I'll go ahead and get that. Those things washed up. For example, I can put these jars, I can put these mason jars in the dishwasher, but they've got like a ring of fat around the top, and that kind of thing doesn't always get cleaned out. So I like to wash them up by hand. And I don't know, I use my dishwasher just about every day, but I'm probably also washing something in my hand every day. And I will admit, I am one of those people who wash their dishes before they wash their dishes. And I know that, you know, it's said that you don't have to do that, that the dishwashers and the detergent are made to attack the grease and all that kind of stuff. But when I find that I don't, there's always something that ends up left on those dishes. And I decided, like, you know what? I'm just going to give them a good rinse. I don't actually wash them, but I do give them a good rinse. I do give them a good rinse. And then they come out just fine. Like things like this, I don't put in the dishwasher. I probably could, but I just don't. I just don't feel like it would wash well. I don't know if the water would get up in there like it needs to for that. Okay. So there's the timer on that microwave. That means there's 30 seconds left on those muffins. Let's see how it's looking. I put them them in. I put them in for 3 more minutes. And now let's take a look at the muffins. Now let me just get you turned so that you can see. There's one, that little small one. There's the other small one. Here's the other one. So they look pretty good. I'll put them on some cooling racks. Right here, I'll just set this on the down like that and put that one on top of there. We're going to get those in the sink. So I got it sitting on a little drying, cooling rack there. I'll move this one back a little bit. There. So these are looking pretty good. I can shut the oven off. Turn the light off, and then give this another good stir. Yeah, this looks pretty darn good. I'm going to taste the noodle again just to see. Noodles are good. I'll put a little bit in a bowl so you can see it. And then we'll wrap this live stream up. This is what it looks like in the bowl. Yeah, these are fine. All right, so now let's just give this a little bit of a taste. And it just dawned on me, I would usually crunch the noodles up, like I'll just take them and drop them in like that. And I wasn't thinking about that when I was trying to make sure you could see everything. I forgot to do that, but it's delicious. My hubby would add more salt. This chicken noodle soup is absolutely delicious. It will certainly offer comfort to the family that we're going to take it to, as well as these little bite-sized mini muffins. See how small they are? And you saw I was able to just give it a little twist and lift it out of the pan. And that is because I greased them very well with shortening. So there's that. So let me know how you like this episode of Cook With Me Live on Vertical. And to see more of my amazing comfort foods, check out this video right here where I show you how to make turkey carcass soup with your Thanksgiving leftovers. See you next time. Okay. Okay, so now what do I do? No, not there yet. Let's see. Not that yet. Do I chop that? Is that done or do I? Yes,